Dr. West, I'm getting a hard rap, so just yes or no. Are you in this until the very end, or is there a chance you'll reconsider at some point and potentially drop out?
Okay, maybe she got like both ears plugged in, you know, from her producers or whatnot. But did she hear anything he had to say the past, like, what, 9 minutes? And she had, maybe she had to say, ask such a ridiculous question. Dr. West, I'm getting a hard rap here. But I mean, are you for real running for president? Or are you just like kind of running for president? Like, what do you think? Okay. Check this out. I'm going to make this clear and upfront at the beginning of this video because I know a lot of people's attention span is like 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to get this out the way right now. Okay, Joe Biden or no other political candidate owns my vote. Okay, I choose who I decide to vote for. Now, I know there's the Electoral College. I know that's a whole different setup. But when it comes to me crossing or circling or filling in a circle next to a candidate, that is my choice. That's initially my choice, okay? So before we even get started, I don't need people in the comments saying, Cornel West is going to steal votes. He's going to take votes. He's going to somehow illegally take. I don't understand why people are so obsessed with the whole narrative of Cornel West is going to be a spoiler, which, you know, that's a whole different conversation. But when they say it in those terms, they're relating it to he's going to steal votes from Biden, which it could, lead to another Trump presidency or DeSantis or whatever crazy person they got lined up. And it just gets to the point, and I'm pretty sure in this interview that we're going to watch with Cornel West on Meet the Press, it gets a little tiring. It's like, okay, we get it. You guys are kind of stuck, kind of brainwashed into this loop to where it's two parties and these are our only two options. But when it's other conversations, everyone else is crying that we need more options, we need more parties, we need other individuals who can join in this conversation. But when someone tries, like a Cornel West, is no, we have to stick to the same two party. It's confusing, and it's honestly an overplayed conversation, and we need something else to beat on. You know what I'm saying? This horse is long gone. Let's go ahead and lay this horse to rest, okay? So let's go ahead, watch this interview with Cornel West and Meet the Press, and let's have that conversation.
The third rail of a third-party ticket. I'll talk to Green Party candidate Cornel West about his bid for the White House amid growing anxiety among Democrats that a third-party challenger like him could spoil President Biden's re-election chances in 2024. Depending on where you live, the Democratic and Republican presidential nominees probably won't be the only big names on your ballot next November. As we've reported, the group No Labels is gaining ballot access across the country and is considering running a moderate third-party candidate if President Biden and former President Trump are the Democratic and Republican Party nominees. Joe Manchin and Jon Huntsman have both been floated as possible independent candidates on that ticket. And Cornel West, professor, political activist, and former Bernie Sanders presidential backer, is seeking the Green Party's presidential nomination. And joining me now is Green Party presidential candidate and Union Theological Seminary professor, Cornel West. Thank you so much, Professor West, for being here. Really appreciate it.
What a blessing. And I salute you in this wonderful new job, so very well deserved. It's beautiful to see you flowering and flourishing, I should say, from Harvard Yard to now Meet the Press. That's beautiful.
Thank you, Professor West. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. And thank you for being here. We do want to talk to you about your candidacy, which has gotten a lot of attention. And I want to start off by asking you about it in this context. Your longtime political ally, Senator Bernie Sanders, he's not a Democrat, but he did, as you know, run twice in the Democratic presidential primary. So let me just put the question to you. Why have you decided to run as a third-party candidate rather than a Democrat challenging President Biden?
Yes, I mean, Bernie Sanders, as you know, is my very dear brother. I have a deep love for him. We have disagreement at this historical moment. I'm thoroughly convinced that neither party is speaking to the pressing needs of poor and working people. And so the two-party system itself is becoming an impediment for the flowering of American democracy. We've got too many fellow citizens, 63%, living paycheck to paycheck. And many of us know exactly what that means, no matter how big or small our check actually is. And so in that sense, I must say that it's hard to view oneself as a spoiler when there's increasing rot in the system with two parties connected to big money, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and militarism abroad. And we need, and really the anthem of Black people, lift every voice. We need many, many more voices, and the two parties that we have are too narrow at this point.
Well, I'm curious because you say this is a moment where you're not necessarily seeing eye to eye with your good friend, Senator Bernie Sanders. Have you spoken to him about your candidacy? As you know, he's already endorsed President Biden.
No, we've had no dialogue. I can feel his love at a distance. I hope he can feel my love at a distance. But no, we've had no dialogues about it, not at all. And as you know, I was very close to him for two campaigns. And I just don't think the Democratic Party treated him fairly. They didn't treat him justly. The Democratic Party was too anti-democratic. And I think both establishments in the Republican Party and in the Democratic Party, they are undergoing a slow erosion. I think one of the reasons why you get a Trump is because the Democratic Party establishment has eroded. I think you're going to see it in many ways in the debate tomorrow night. You know, we just don't have the high quality. So you end up with a lot of Pied Piper language at Trump, but he's in so many ways beneath mediocrity, God bless him. And then with Biden, you've got milquetoast mediocrity. Where are the great visionary statespersons that come in and intervene as this country is undergoing polarization and gangsterization? In the name of integrity, honesty, decency, and generosity, we have got to have new voices on the scene. That's why I'm running for president.
Let me ask you about your past position. In 2004, you signed a letter of former Ralph Nader advisors urging progressives in swing states to vote for John Kerry. I'm going to read you a little bit of this letter that you signed. Quote, "This year, we urge support for Kerry Edwards in all swing states, even while we strongly disagree with Kerry's policies on Iraq and other issues. For people seeking progressive social change in the United States, removing George W. Bush from office should be the top priority in the 2004 presidential election. Progressive voters for John Kerry in swing states may prove decisive in attaining this vital goal." If you believed that in 2004, Dr. West, how do you rationalize your third-party candidacy this time around?
Here we go.
Well, it's a wonderful question because, as you know, I supported Brother Biden, given my profound disagreements with Biden as architect of mass incarceration, as supporter of invasion and occupation of Iraq. Why? Because I was thoroughly convinced that what the Republicans were presenting was so dangerous. But the sad thing is now, is that as dangerous as a second Trump term would be, if we don't break out of the corporate duopoly, we're going to be doing this for the next 10, 20, and 30 years. And I don't think the American project can withstand it. This shift from Democrats to Republicans, the Democrats feeding the Republicans feeding the Democrats, and yet poor people, working people, finding themselves pushed to the margins. It could be Cop City, both parties support. It could be expansion of military budget, both parties support. It could be policies advantageous to Wall Street, both parties support. And as you know, this is the 60th anniversary of Brother Martin Luther King's great speech. And I've always viewed myself as my own humble calling, trying to keep alive the great legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Fannie Lou Hamer, Ella Baker, and Diane Nash. And that tradition has to continue on and on. I think of Les McCann's great classic, compared to what, 1969? Compared to what at this point with these parties? Let's try something new.
Okay, so one thing that I'm pretty sure she understands, but it always feels like it's always a state of emergency. Every election cycle, some campaign ads, some politician is telling you, hey, our democracy is under attack and we need you. We need you just this one time, like the Avengers. We all need to gather and we need to defeat X politician. Same with Republicans. They're always saying, our democracy, our freedom, our sacred country is under attack by these Democrats. We need you to vote for us. Like, it's always the same story over and over. And it seems like it's never going to stop because it works. It brings people to the polls when you try to fearmonger them to the polls. It works. So what Cornel was saying, like, hey, at some point we need to just stop and vote the way we want to, not the way that they're presuming we have to. You know what I'm saying? Once again, they don't own my vote. And like Joe Biden say, hey, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Well, hey, go ahead. Here's my black card. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not gonna work with me this go around. You know what I'm saying? So, take back your vote.
Dr. West, as you know, though, if you look back throughout history, third-party candidates have at times made the difference in presidential elections, including in 2016, when in some key states, Jill Stein, for example, seemed to make a difference. Would you be okay if at the end of the day, the vote totals came back, you stayed through the entire race, and it was clear that your candidacy helped deliver former President Trump another term in office?
Well, some information that I have gathered, people who study polls and really dive deep into those kind of conversations, they say even Jill Stein, even with some of the votes that she had gathered, some of those people who voted for her stated that they wouldn't have voted either way. They would have stayed home. And I think that's a lot of people who vote Green Party, that they don't kind of feel like they're obligated to vote red or blue. They're like, hey, if I can't vote, then I'm just not going to vote. And a lot of people didn't vote. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of weird. Once again, they're stuck in this narrative like Jill Stein took, 1%? Maybe I think some of the numbers were, and that was going to automatically go to Hillary. Like, no, what makes you think that? Maybe they just wasn't going to vote at all if they didn't have more options. So once again, we need to kind of break out of this routine conversation a lot of these people have.
Well, the vast number of voters who would vote for a Green Party and myself either would not vote at all or would never, ever vote for Biden or Trump. And that's very important to keep in mind, because there's this narrative, I think it's a false narrative, thinking that somehow they're choosing between Biden and myself. No, not really. They've given up on Biden. What is it now? 48% of our precious fellow citizens do not vote at all, my dear sister. That's not a good sign in a democracy that's already in decay. That's not a good symptom of a democracy already experiencing a kind of decadence. We've got to bring new people in, and neither party is really interested in speaking to that 48% that has given up on American democracy.
What do you say to your fellow progressives, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Senator John Fetterman, who've expressed their real concerns about a third-party candidacy? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, quote, it's very difficult to square the very real threat of a Republican presidency with the risk of giving up the very small margin of electoral votes needed to ensure that President Biden wins. John Fetterman says, I fundamentally believe that you don't mess around with the kinds of highest stakes we're dealing with. Can you just imagine what a second term of Trump would be? It's all going to be about revenge.
Once again, it's always the highest stakes. It's always, and if anyone wants to say, oh, fascism is at the door, and we don't. What are you talking about? If fascism was a person, it already got 1.5 feet in. What are you talking about? And when it comes to the Democratic Party, they're a whole different kind of fascists on their own terms. You know what I'm saying? So like, if we really want to break this down to a science, I mean, we literally just want hop skipping away from what we're fearing most. You know what I'm saying? So once again, if Democrats were doing what they're supposed to do and stop serving their corporate interests, we wouldn't be in this situation. If they actually served the people, we wouldn't be considering voting for a third party. The margins wouldn't be so close. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that just seems too simple for me, but maybe it's a little bit more confusing.
What do you say to your fellow progressives who are expressing deep concerns about a third-party candidacy?
Well, I think one thing to keep in mind is that 1 out of 8 of the voters for Trump voted for Bernie Sanders. See, the Trump followers are not homogeneous and monolithic. If you can speak to their pain, if you can speak to their frustration, they will never vote for Democrats, but many of them would be open to those who are speaking to their needs. They don't have to follow the Pied Piper, the neo-fascist Pied Piper with Trump. A new vision, a different alternative can convince a significant number of them. And so, again, I'm resisting the notion that somehow it's just a matter of myself and Brother Biden that people are choosing between. No, we've got large numbers of non-voters who are interested, especially young people. Look at the percentage of young people. Only 20-some% participate at all. I want to speak to those young folk. I want to try to galvanize their energy.
Dr. West, I'm getting a hard rap, so just yes or no. Are you in this until the very end, or is there a chance you'll reconsider at some point and potentially drop out?
Okay, maybe she got like both ears plugged in, from her producers or whatnot. But did she hear anything he had to say the past 9 minutes? And maybe she had to say, ask such a ridiculous question. Dr. Rest, I'm getting a hard rap here. But I mean, are you for real running for president? Or are you just kind of running for president? What do you think? Okay. And we know for a fact, Cornel West can't just give a simple yes or no answer. He has to fill that in with history and love and music and perspective. He can't just be yeah. Come on. Those are two ridiculous requests to ask from Cornel West. Okay, so let's.
Well, I am a jazz man, you know that, but I intend to be in it to the very end because it's not just about, it's not about this particular election only. It's about a larger movement. We've got to break the two-party system, and to do it is now. And if we don't do it now, we'll find ourselves back and forth with this swing between the fascists on the one hand and the neoliberals on the other.
Welcome. Bars. All right. Well, let's go back and finish this conversation here. So at some point we need to, and this will just be the beginning, you know what I'm saying? Because at some point we as Americans need to understand that we can't rely on a irresponsible, greedy, corrupt government. Now, I mean, in a perfect world, a government is supposed to take care of its citizens from all sorts of danger. It's supposed to provide the resources that the people need. Just on paper, that's what it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, we're all human. And when some human beings are in a position of power, they're going to abuse it. You know what I'm saying? So at some point, the first step would need to be to get out of this red and blue monopoly the government has over the people. And we need to actually have some real intellectuals in these position of powers. And I'm not saying Cornel West is going to be a saint. I'm not saying he's going to do everything perfectly. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure he does has his flaws and a little bit of gangster in him, as he already explains. But I can tell you this, I can bet my last dollar that Cornel West is better than any individual running for president today, probably in the past, 2 elections. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has a record of serving the people, and he's been consistent with his message. And that goes a long way. That goes above and beyond a lot of people running for president, just really in general. You know what I'm saying? Look at Vivek, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just fresh up out the wound, and all of a sudden he wants to run for president. Like, what have you done to serve your community, to serve any community that wasn't profit driven? Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's night and day right there. Who do you want to govern millions of people? Someone who's always profit driven, or someone who is driven for the people? I don't know. Maybe I'm just high on whatever, and I'm just living in la la land. But like, America's not a business. We need actual people who has a heart for the people, and that's a start right there. But we're not going to get that if we keep being fear-mongered between the red and the blue parties. That's not going to work, at least for me. You know what I'm saying? So once again, if you think I'm wrong, if you think Cornel West is a scam artist, you think he's just in it just for the money, you think I just need to just vote for Biden just because we're supposed to vote for Biden, because like that's what voters do, is vote for Joe Biden because he's Joe Biden, and we don't like Trump. Trump bad, Biden bad, not too bad, but he's okay. Like, if that's the way that you like to think, let me know in the comments. And like always, let's have that conversation.